Okay.
This begins our third session of videos on subject considered from a material world perspective. Here we've been talking about areas of division among us, and will now continue that discussion. These two basic reasons that we talked about in the previous session that I became involved are inexorably intertwined, because the four primary areas of concern mentioned, religion, abortion, the gay and lesbian community, and race, are being skillfully used, along with other subjects mentioned above, as tools of the politics of division and hate by those who are at the top of the heap in wealth, power, and politics. These things are being used to divide the rest of us as a means to permanently install their generally conservative political agenda and rule with that agenda as the law of our land. Through misinformation and by exercising influence and sometimes even control over the media, they have managed to misinform and persuade a substantial portion of an otherwise honest and well-meaning electorate. That means many of you as their allies. It's my hope that by the time you have completed watching all of the videos which speak from a material point of view, that you'll have a much better understanding of what's really happening in our country and why, so that you can come to a higher level of understanding and truth about a great many things. This extreme partisanship has been seen to one degree or another by others besides this speaker. Perhaps you'll remember that during the last few years of the George H.W. Bush administration, quite a number of elected officials from both sides of the aisle who had been in politics at a national level were, one by one, beginning to retire from their respective congressional and Senate offices that they had actively held, some for many years, because the nature of politics, their profession, had changed to the extent that it had become much too extreme and too fiercely partisan. Most of them felt that they were seeing too much anger, too much name-calling, too much partisan animosity manifesting in vicious attacks directed toward the opposition, and they weren't seeing enough of doing the work necessary to benefit the people of the country directly, and the country itself. And as a result, they no longer wanted to be a part of it. Sadly, for the same reasons, this has once again begun to take place from those on both sides of the aisle, and continues even during the current administration elected in 2008. Those who are at the top of that heap we mentioned in wealth, power, and politics have, over a great many years, been able to create an environment of combativeness wherein we find the Republicans against the Democrats, the whites against the people of color, the Christians against the non-Christians, and even against themselves because of the differences between the many denominations. And from time to time, over a number of years, even the men against the women. Many of the more influential conservatives over the years have been successful, often in very subtle and sophisticated ways, to make the word liberal receive the same reaction from polite company as it might if it were a so-called four-letter word. While many liberals have made similar efforts to discredit the conservative point of view, but with far less success. When we're finished here, you'll see that the political leadership of both major parties are very skilled in playing good cop, bad cop with the public. When the public becomes notably unhappy with an administration in power, then that party tends to take on the role of the bad cop in the eyes of much of the electorate, while the other party, the good cop, shows up describing themselves as being on your side and being ready to make changes that will, of course, fix everything. You know the story. But there are rarely any truly significant changes. Do we have universal free or low-cost health care, or free higher education, or 30 days paid leave per year, or a truly decent living wage? I mean a living wage, not just salary. Or a respectable minimum wage, or teacher salaries that attract only the best. You know, as I do, that the answer to every one of these questions is no, regardless of the party in power. We will now close this session of information, and in our next video, number 4, we will talk about the fact that a house divided against itself will not and cannot stand. I want to thank you for watching, and I hope you'll take the time to view all of the 19 videos in this session and the 32 in the spiritual perspective sessions. Thank you.